Good morning, good morning, good morning. Greetings, everybody. June Allen here, founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Today, we're going to be talking about mindfulness, okay? Specifically, black mindfulness. What is it? Why it's important? How to practice it? Very, very important. Very, very important. So, hi, thanks for joining. So, thanks everyone for joining me this morning. So, for those of you that don't know anything about me or my work, my name is June Allen, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So, I came into doing this healing work back in 2009. I started my own journey back in 2009. I went into therapy and 12-step recovery off the back of a really dysfunctional relationship, and decided that I needed to figure out what was going on, what the hell was going on with me. So I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about myself. I learned what it meant to be a human being. But what was missing from that was I didn't have the language or the understanding of how to apply the fact that I was a black woman doing this work. What did that even mean? How does that apply? How does the fact that living under the system of racism, how do I deal with that and deal with my wellness? How does the fact that my parents came from Jamaica, had a history of 240 years of enslavement, how does that apply to me now? What's been passed down? How do I even understand all of that? So I had all of these questions and things that I needed to answer, to be answered. So then I became obsessed with reading, exploring. I was curious about finding out about, racial trauma, all of that kind of stuff. And once I started exploring all of that and doing a lot of reading and stuff like that, I really started to begin to understand, number one, why things were so difficult for me in terms of my healing process. Hi, thanks for joining. In terms of my healing process, how difficult, why it was so difficult, and number two, it also made me understand that I can't do my healing process without having that conversation also. So in training as a therapist, I'm also a student psychotherapist. I apply the same lens to my work as I teach. So whether I'm working with clients one on one, whether I'm doing group work, there's always that cultural context that's included in the conversation, because as black people, as a black woman, we need to understand how that applies to us. So anything that I talk about always gets applied through the lens of, okay, how does it apply to you being black? And this is the reason why so many women decide to, or men as well. I do work with black men as well, one on one. This is the reason why so many people choose to come work with me, because not a lot of people are talking about their wellness through that lens, or they don't understand it, and to be fair, that's a lot of the training institutions, they don't really have those deep conversations about it, which is why I teach it. So I absolutely love what I do. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me for those of you that don't know me or anything about my work. So just a couple of bits of housekeeping. I run a wellness mastermind as well for black women, and at the moment we are studying. On Thursdays we have a book club. Okay, so the book that we're studying at the moment is What Mama Couldn't Teach Us About Love. It's really amazing book so far. We've done 2 sessions so far. So this week will be the third session, and it's all about healing the mother wound. In a nutshell, it's all about healing the mother wound. So if you've got issues around, if you've got a difficult relationship with your mum and you want to figure out, what are the things that your mother wasn't able to tell you about relationships and stuff like that, this book is really, really good. So I'm really enjoying this actually, and I've had some really good feedback as well from the ladies who have joined, saying that they're really enjoying it. So if you're interested in joining me for the book club, it happens on Thursday evening, 8 p.m. London time. You can click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Okay, so that's the book club. The other thing that I want to share as well in terms of the housekeeping is, hi Marie, thanks for joining. Is that with everything that's going on at the moment, with this insane situation with the football and all the racism and stuff that's going on, I have a couple of free tools that I can share with you. Number one, I did share it on my page yesterday. If you go to the link in my bio, heal.juneallen.net, and go to the section that's got free downloads, in that link, there's a PDF that you can download. It's how to manage racial stress, how to deal with your anger, And there's loads of there's I think there's 5 or 6 different tools in there that I share that are really useful. So if you've been really stressed out by what's going on, whether it's the football or whether it's other things around racial stress, maybe you've got stuff going on at work or whatever it is, there's some really great tools in there. So click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net, and you can download your free PDF, okay, around how to manage racial stress. The last bit of housekeeping that I want to share, that I want to give you that's free, is if you're a wounded daughter, okay, if you're a wounded daughter, difficult relationship with your mum, there's also resources there as well. There's some affirmations, there's my ten favourite books on the mother wound, and what else is in there? Some reflections and stuff, just some thoughts and stuff that's come up for me about mother wound and stuff like that. So if you're a wounded daughter and you want to get started on your mother wound as well, you can click the link in the bio and download that free PDF as well. So that's the housekeeping out of the way. So for those of you that have just joined, my name is June Allen, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So today we're talking about mindfulness, okay, black mindfulness in particular. And again, with everything that's going on with the racism in football and all the rest of it, and there's been some horrendous stuff that's come up. I mean, I literally was afraid. I was afraid to go onto social media after they lost the football, because I was just like, I know I know what's coming. I know what's coming. And I didn't. I was really hesitant. I was really avoidant about going on social media. And as soon as I went on there, I just saw the vitriol, it was disgusting. It was disgusting. It was really painful to look at. But I know that I've got tools to deal with this. I know that I've got tools to deal with this. So I decided to come on and do this session today about black mindfulness. Also, there was a lady in the group. I have a I run a really small mastermind as well on Sundays. Sunday circle, Sunday healing circle with a small intimate group of ladies where we dive deep into various different topics. And the third week of the month, or sorry, the second no, it's the third week of the month. I do a live Q&A. I do a live Q&A, so they let me know what questions, if anything's come up, depending on what the theme is for the month, and then I answer them. And this is one of the questions that came up, so I said that I would do a live stream about it today. So, right, so let's dive into it. So what I'm going to share with you today is I'm going to share five principles, okay, 5 key principles that apply to black mindfulness. So first of all, let's talk about what is black mindfulness exactly. What is it? So, black mindfulness basically is about having a self awareness, okay? It's about having self awareness. It's a self observation, not just in who you are as a human being and what's going on in the present, and how you're reacting to certain things, but also what does it mean for you to be in your blackness? What does it mean for you to be in your black body around mindfulness? So mindfulness is not just about how you're breathing, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, what's the behavior, all of that sort of stuff. But also, how does that all of that apply within the context of you being a black person? Because that's another conversation. That's another level of thinking. That's another level of self-awareness. That's important for you as a black person to understand. How am I actually reacting to all of this? Using the football as an example, okay, when you see all of the disgusting stuff that's on social media, what's the internal thinking? What is it that you tell yourself about your blackness when you see all of that? Okay, what do you think about your blackness? Do you feel ashamed of it? Do you feel ashamed of it? In terms of your feeling in your black body, what happens in your body? Do you tense up? Do you want to withdraw? Are you kind of in avoidance in it? Do you want to, do you go and eat? Do you go and overeat? There's so many different things that happen when you think about mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just about being in this zen state all the time. That's the fantasy. The fantasy is that, oh, if you do mindfulness, then you're never going to get angry, you're never going to feel ashamed, you're never going to get upset, you're never going to react to all of these things, and somehow it's supposed to be some sort of constant zen state that you're supposed to be in. And that's not the reality. The reality is black mindfulness is about self-honesty. Okay, it's about self-honesty. It's about giving yourself permission to be present. Okay, and these are the 5 things that I'm gonna be talking about in a bit more detail, but it's important that we define it. Then we define it first, so then we kind of know what we're dealing with. Okay, so it's basically about self-awareness. Self-awareness about who you are as a black person, as a black woman. All right, that's how you define it. So let's go through now the 5 things. So actually, one of the benefits of doing black mindfulness is that you'll find it much easier to respond to things from a that are not from a subconscious place. Okay, when you're not aware of what's going on, it's easy for you to act it out because your subconscious is like, you need to do this or behave this way or say this, or so you're constantly reacting to things in a way that might not be what you actually choose to do because it's in a subconscious place. Your subconscious is going to react to things from your experience. Okay, that's the difference. Your subconscious thinking is going to react from a place of your experience. So if you've had a traumatic experience around a certain thing, you're going to react from that place. When you're being mindful, it means that you have more self-awareness around what's going on in the present, and then you can make a different choice. Okay, then you can make a different choice. So let's talk about the 5 things, the 5 principles of black mindfulness. The first one is kind of what I've just said before. It's about being present. Okay, it's about staying in the moment, staying with whatever's happening in the moment. Okay, there's no future goal, there's no oh, I've arrived somewhere, there's no goal in that sense. It's about giving yourself permission to go, actually, what's happening for me in this moment. Okay, what's happening for me right in this moment. It's not about stopping how you feel or anything either, it's about observing it. When you're present, you're just observing what's going on. So if you're watching me live, okay, whether you're watching me live or on the replay, just pause for a minute and think about what's going on in your body now as I'm talking. What are you thinking? What are the things that are going on in your head around what I'm saying? Okay, what's happening in your body? Are you finding yourself wanting to kind of recoil at what I'm saying, or are you finding yourself, are you recognizing that you're leaning into what I'm saying, and you're like, yeah, actually, this kind of makes sense. What's happening in your body at the moment? Are you feeling anxious about the stuff that I'm talking about, or when I spoke about the football, are you recognizing that your body is starting to your breathing maybe might be a bit shallow or whatever it is. The point of being present is to give yourself permission to access the data that's being presented to you in the present. Okay, it's giving yourself permission to pay attention to what's happening for you in that particular moment. Okay, so when you do that, you give yourself more choice. You can respond from a more sober place. Okay, when I'm talking about sobriety now, I'm not talking about drink and drugs. I'm talking about emotional sobriety. You can respond from an emotionally sober place because you have an awareness. You're bringing the unconscious stuff that's going on to to the into the present. You're putting it all on the table and going, okay, well, what is this? What's happening to me? Okay, so maybe I'm feeling a bit anxious. I'm feeling a bit angry. I'm feeling a bit ashamed. I'm feeling a bit powerless, or whatever it is. But when you're present, you give yourself permission to look at it. It's unpacking where you are in that moment. Okay, and that's important. Okay, because being present is going to give you choice. Okay, being present is going to give you choice as to what the next best thing to do that is right for you. Okay, so the second principle of black mindfulness is trust. Okay, it's trusting your own feelings and trusting your own intuition without judging it. Okay, if you're not used to feeling, if you're not used to being present to what's going on in your body, it's going to be difficult for you to trust it. So part of that process is giving yourself permission, or finding a safe space, whether it's therapy or whether it's a group, group work, or even in your own personal time. When you have your I always encourage the ladies in my mastermind to do a sacred sister, have sacred sister time every day. Have sacred sister time, and sacred sister time is about getting present. It's about journaling out what's going on for you. It's about choosing how you want your day to be. How do you want to feel during the day? Okay, what do you need in today in order for you to be your best self? That's what sacred sister time is. If you're not feeling great, if you're feeling a bit numb, if you're feeling upset or whatever it is, okay, so then what's the next thing? What's the next thing that you need to be doing? That's what sacred sister time is. And when you get used to doing that, when you get used to having that time to yourself, whether it's in therapy or whatever, you start to begin to trust your feelings, because your feelings and stuff, your feelings are going to give you data. Your feelings are going to give you data about what your needs are. Now, I know that one of the things that always comes up, that comes up quite a lot, is we don't know how to deal with our feelings. We don't understand what our feelings are about, or we repress them because sometimes we feel so overwhelmed by them, we don't trust them, and then we shame ourselves for having the feelings, and then we just want to get rid of them. So quite often we don't trust how we feel, and that often comes from how, our relationship with our feelings when we were children, how our parents responded to our feelings. If you were raised in a home where your parents were like, would shame you for having feelings, or would minimize your feelings, or they would say things like stop crying, or give you something to cry about, that's not encouraging you to explore what's going on or to trust your feelings. We're constantly taught to suppress them, deny them, ignore them, and all of that kind of stuff. And that just makes it worse. It's like it builds a pressure cooker. There's an emotional pressure cooker that then builds, that you just can't deal with. And so what often happens is, sometimes I work with clients that find it difficult to access their emotion, and they find it difficult to cry. They find it difficult to feel anger, because they've been taught over time, whether it's in the family and also under the system of racism as well. Under the system of racism, black people are not supposed to have feelings. We're not supposed to have feelings. We're not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to feel anything. We're not allowed to feel anything. And so a lot of us have internalized that. And then we don't give ourselves permission to have feelings, and we shame other people in the community for doing it as well. I've heard people say that all the time. Stop being in your feelings. How are you going to understand what you need if you don't know how you feel? Okay, if you watch the live stream that I did last week, it was about it's called I don't know what my needs are. That's an extension of basically what I was talking about how to understand what your needs are. But trusting how you feel is really, really important. Okay. The other thing that can be quite difficult, in terms of trusting your own feelings, is if you were also raised in an environment where there was trauma, if you were abused in any way, it can be very, very difficult to trust your own feelings and to actually to practice mindfulness as well, because it's not safe for you to be in your body. It feels unsafe for you to be in your body. So mindfulness in that sense can feel quite painful. So in that sense, I'd really encourage you to seek out a therapist, or to find a support group that is trauma informed. Okay, that is trauma informed, that's going to help you to unpack it. I've got this amazing book as well, and I've recommended this to a lot of my clients as well. It's called Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness. Now, one of the things I really like about this book is that it does actually talk about, it does give you a cultural context as well. It does talk about racism in there as well, because it's easy for people to talk about, oh yeah, you need to do mindfulness, get quiet and all of that kind of stuff. But if you've been raised in a home that was abusive, this is something that I found really difficult around, getting present and all of that kind of stuff, because my body, it didn't feel safe for me to go in that place of, oh, I need to calm down and be present, because when I got present and I got quiet, okay, all the trauma started coming up. All the pain started coming up, and it just didn't feel safe. It just didn't feel safe for me to get that quiet. So some of the things that I practice as well in the group is, when we do meditation and stuff like that, I always say to the ladies, you don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to, if you just want to lower your eyes or just get quiet or whatever, so that, because sometimes closing your eyes and doing the meditation, again, it might take you to a place that you don't want to go, you know, and it's about being curious about those things, and also you can be curious about even the fact that you're numb, because some people will say, oh, I can't practice mindfulness, my mind will start racing, or I can't feel anything, or I feel numb, or whatever. Again, this is not anything to shame yourself about. This is all data. This is all data telling you that obviously there's a reason why I feel numb. There's a reason why I find it uncomfortable when I'm getting present. So it's not about shaming yourself about it. It's about us being curious about why that's about. Okay, what's that about? So number three, this is the third principle of black mindfulness, is being self-compassionate. All right, it's about being self-compassionate. And now I know a lot of us were raised in homes where hitting, getting beaten from your parents and stuff like that was normal. And for that reason, that might be one of the reasons why you find it difficult to get present inside your body. A lot of us have lived our lives disconnected from our bodies, myself included. I had to do a lot of work. I had to do a lot of trauma work in order for me to kind of feel comfortable. And even now, when things happen, sometimes I can feel myself wanting to disconnect from my body. And I know that's exactly what happened with this football thing, and why I didn't want to go onto social media, because, or why I was avoidant about going on social media, because I knew that my body had kind of disconnected. In therapy, we call it disassociation. You disassociate, disconnect from yourself, disconnect from your feelings, disconnect from. It's a form of self-protection. It's a form of self-protection because I didn't want to feel the pain and vulnerability of my blackness, because of all of the crap and all of the racism and all the rest of it that was on the internet over all this week about the football, and it was just exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. Okay, but then what happened yesterday is I had to have a conversation with myself. I did eventually go on social media and I ended up posting some stuff and whatever. But before I could do that, I had to really take care of myself. I had to ask myself the question, okay, what is going on here for me? What's going on in my body? And I felt numb. I realized that I'd unconsciously numbed myself because I didn't want to feel the anger. I didn't want to feel the upset of all of the horrible stuff, that was the insanity that was on the internet about the football. So what I ended up doing was I ended up doing some anger work. I ended up doing some anger work. So I gave myself a couple of minutes and I went into the bedroom and I beat the shit out of the bed. I beat the shit out of the bed. Okay, I just pounded. I pounded. I cussed. I did what I need to do for I set a timer. Okay, and I did that for a while, and then what happened as a result of that is I burst into tears afterwards, which actually means that then I was able to connect with my feelings. These are some of the tools actually that are in the how to manage your racial stress PDF. So if you haven't got that already, if you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. There's a free PDF there you can download, and that will help you to manage, racial stress basically. And that's one of the tools that's in there. So yeah, after I did that, I was able to connect with myself. And then as a result of that, I was able to just to be present and just realize and just admit to myself how upset I was about all of this stuff that was happening with the football. But in releasing that stuff from my body, I wasn't holding it in. I wasn't holding it in, and it means that I'm not going to hurt myself in other ways when it gets played out unconsciously in other ways, if that makes sense. It means that I'm not going to all of a sudden start being irritated with my daughter about things. I'm not going to start, being mean to myself, or that internal critic is not going to start saying things to me, because I've brought out what was in the unconscious into the forefront, into the conscious. Okay, I was compassionate to myself. I was able to say to myself, June, you know, the stuff that's going on with the football is impacting you in a way that's not healthy, and you need to give yourself a little space to be able to deal with it. That's an example of what self-compassionate looks like. Okay, it's being open to what's going on in that particular moment. Okay, and trusting that it's going to unfold. My feelings are gonna come out and they're gonna unfold, but it's doing it in a safe way. It's not vomiting all of that stuff onto somebody else, or internalizing it and hurting myself in the process. It's laying it out. Again, it's laying it out on your stool, laying out your emotions on the stool, and looking at it and exploring it and being compassionate about it as well at the same time, without any judgment. It's an observation. It's self-observation and self-honesty. That's an example of what the healing work looks like in the moment. Okay, that's what it looks like in the moment, and it's that mindfulness, that self-awareness, not just around who I am as a black woman, but who I am as a human being. It's all looking at all of those things, looking at it in a holistic way is going to give you an opportunity to really take care of yourself and look after yourself. Okay, So number four, let's look at number four. The fourth principle of black mindfulness is being curious. Being curious. I kind of gave you a bit of an example just before about how that works, but it really is about looking beyond your expectations again, not sort of thinking about, oh, I should really be in some sort of zen place or all the time or whatever, but again, just being curious and looking beyond the expectations for you. And the way that you practice mindfulness and how you feel is going to be different for different people. So it's about giving yourself permission to be curious about what's going on for you, not what's going on for anybody else or what anybody else tells you should think or feel. It's about you having that space, you creating that sacred sister time, whether it's a structured time that you do, like I do mine in the morning. Sometimes I'll have a little check-in session at the end of the day, but you can do it at any time. You can do it at any time. If you're at work or whatever, go into the loo, go into the bathroom, into the toilet for 2 minutes. And give yourself a moment to kind of check in. It might be that you can't process it in that moment, but if you go into the loo and you realize that that you're feeling some type of way, you can make a mental note. Okay, when I get home, half an hour before I go to bed, I'm going to have a little check-in session with myself. Maybe I'm going to do some journaling before I go to bed to kind of check in with myself. Maybe I'm going to make a phone call to check in with that person and say, look, I've been really upset with what's going on with this football stuff, and are you available to kind of to hear me? I just need to vent. I need to share how I'm feeling. You know, am I gonna? I'll be talking to my therapist about it today. I got my therapist session. I'll be talking about that today. Are you? Maybe you can go to recovery meeting and talk about it if you're in recovery. These are all spaces where you can really get honest and get curious about exactly what's going on for you, and to really take care of yourself. And the curiosity is not about necessarily getting stuck in the problem, getting stuck in the feelings. It's about using the feelings and the situation to think about the solution, to think about, okay, what's next. And I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing, or thinking about, what is it? What's the word that they use? Toxic positivity. It's not about that. It's about you being honest about what's going on in the moment, but thinking about, okay, well, what's the next thing that I need to do in order to take care of myself? What's the next thing that I need to do in order to process these emotions? Because your emotions are energy. Your emotions are energy that need to be honored, that need to be respected. You need to respect that part of your humanity. A lot of us are so shut down that we don't know how to deal with we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to deal with it. And as black people, that is how the system wants us to operate. Because if we're operating from a position of not understanding how we feel, we're always going to be reacting. And it's easy for the system to control how we think and feel, because we're always reacting. Okay. And what we want is to be in a position that we become so mindful and so self-aware and so self-loving and so self-compassionate that you start to have that conversation, that relationship with yourself. Okay, that's going to allow you to really take care of yourself, even when you're feeling absolute rage, when you're feeling absolute shame, when you're feeling so exhausted from all of this that's going on. You can have that. There's your inner parent comes up. That's what's important. Your inner parent steps up and goes, you know what? We ain't doing this. You're coming off social media. Okay, we're not going to do this. I'm not going to get into conversations with white people about what's going on. You're not going to allow yourself to get into those conversations, because ultimately it's going to hurt you. It's going to upset you, because you're not going to be heard, you're not going to be seen. And this constant situation of having to justify that we're human beings. Please don't talk to us like that, because we're human beings. It's exhausting. And you don't have to justify to any white person your own humanity. You shouldn't have to justify that to anybody. Okay? So when you get into those places where you just feel in so much pain, okay? The three important things to remember, okay, when you're in a lot of pain around racism, okay, when it comes to mindfulness, is first of all, you go inward. Go inward. What's happening for me? What's happening for me in this moment? And the second thing is, go to your community. What's happening in my community? Is there a safe space in my community that I can talk to? And then the third thing is, what support do you need? Do you need to go and talk to a therapist? Do you need to go to a support group? What support do you need? Don't be afraid to have those conversations. You don't have to put up with it. You don't have to sit with it. I think one of the most difficult but also empowering things that I hear so much of the with the clients that I work with is that a lot of them really feel like they're doing this alone. A lot of them felt that they're the only person that feels like that, and you're not the only person that feels like that. Sometimes you go on social media about a lot of this stuff, and you see a lot of people ranting, venting, that are upset, but not a lot of people are giving you solutions. It's about, okay, I'm upset about this, but what do I do with it? What do I do with all of these feelings? What do I do with this rage? What do I do when I'm on social media and I see that the social society is kind of is anti-black. You got people like Boris Johnson that are just tweeting foolishness, saying about how these people should be ashamed. Why is he talking about being ashamed? Why is he not talking about prosecuting these people? That in of itself is an abandonment of the black community, and him himself has been racist anyway, and not taking responsibility for it. So when we're in a situation where we can't trust the institutions that are supposed to take responsibility and care for and protect their citizens from this type of abuse, that's when we have to create our own safe spaces, and that's the reason why I do what I do. That's the reason why I do why I do what I do. Why I create spaces for people to they can have one-on-one sessions with me, or if they don't want to do the one-on-one sessions, some of them want to work within a group. Okay, there's different levels of healing that you can do, but you've got to find out what's right for you, because when you're not being protected, whether it's people in your family, whether it's society, whether it's Boris Johnson or whatever it is, you have to take responsibility for your own healing. You don't have to put up with it. Okay, you don't have to put up with it. If you're interested in joining me for the book club, okay, we've got the book club is happening on Thursdays. What Mama couldn't tell us about love. Not only is it a really beautiful, intimate space, but there's lots of tools and stuff like that. There's a huge library that comes from joining the mastermind as well. There's a hundred plus live streams, masterclasses, resources, tools, all the stuff. A lot of the stuff that I'm talking about today, a lot of stuff that I talk about, there's loads more information in the library, and there's a huge category. There's loads of different categories of different things that I talk about that's going to support you in addition to what we learn in the mastermind. So whatever you've got going on, there'll be something for you to learn from that in the mastermind. Also, this book as well, I have to show you this book as well because it is really good. Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness Practices for Safe and Transformative Healing, and it has got a cultural context in it as well. So if you haven't, it's on Audible as well as hard copy. I've got both because I like to do both. That's just me. If I find a book that's really helpful, I like to have both the hard copy and the actual audio book as well, so then I can listen to it and do the quotes and all the rest of it. So let's have a look. So Gloria is saying, I'd get that shallow breathing feeling after a racial event around white people at work, and I'd be so exhausted by the end of the day. Mindfulness and taking space from them helped. Great, thank you for sharing that, Gloria. And that is a really good example of taking care of yourself. Okay, being mindful about, okay, I'm in a safe space, surrounded by lots of white people. I'm not feeling safe at the moment. I'm feeling anxious, and I need to take care of myself. And so that exhaustion is kind of holding all of that. That exhaustion is about holding all of that. So giving yourself permission to kind of go, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom, I'm going to go to the loo and sit there for 5 minutes and just collect myself, or I'm going to phone someone when I get home and just to talk about it, or I'm going to go to the group, or I'm going to, whatever you need to do, you do what you need to do in order to take care of yourself in that sense. Okay. So it's really important. So number 4 is getting curious. Get curious about what comes up without judgment. Okay. So the fifth principle of black mindfulness is acceptance. Okay, it's acceptance. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to accept people's nonsense. When I talk about acceptance, it means accepting what you can control and what you can't. Okay, acceptance is about accepting what you can control and what you can't. Focus on what you can. A lot of us find ourselves in so much pain because we're trying to change other people. We're trying to change white people's point of view. We want white people to accept us. We want white people to stop treating us badly. They're going to do what they're going to, under the system of racism, they're going to do what they're going to do. And they've been doing it for centuries. Okay? And it's going to, it creates more suffering and pain when you're just focusing on, I have to change how white people think about me. That just creates more suffering, and you can't change it. That's the reality, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear. You can't change the way other people behave if they don't want to. You cannot change the way white people behave if they don't want to. That's real talk. If they're not interested in it, and let's be honest, okay, some more real talk. When we're talking about changing people that practice white supremacy, you're asking them to change a system that has benefited them for hundreds of years. It benefits them, it benefits their families, it benefits their children, it benefits their work, it means they've got more money, it means they've got more opportunities. You're asking them to change something that has benefited them for years, and they ain't going to do it willingly. That's the unpopular opinion, and a lot of black people don't want to hear that. But a lot of white people, they're not interested in doing this work because they don't care, because they're benefiting from it. That's real talk. They don't care. They're not interested in it. So things will only change when you do your own work and you set boundaries. You set boundaries, okay, around people that practice white supremacy, knowingly or unknowingly. You set boundaries around that. That's how things change. That's how things change. One of the powerful things that happened last week, actually, in the Sunday Circle Mastermind group that I run, is a lot of the women that I work with now. There's so many of them shared stories last week, and it was so humbling, where they're really starting to what they've learned. Some of them have been working with me for years. You know, there's a couple in there that've been working with me for a long time, and they're at the stage now where they can see the pain in other people. They can see the pain in other people, and they're now starting to empower them with the stuff that they've learned. They're now starting to do service in their community because of what they've learned. That's how you make change. Change doesn't happen by focusing on what you can change externally. Change happens by what you do internally, and then it ripples out as a result of what you're doing internally. When you do the work internally, then you walk different, you talk different, you feel different. Your sense of being is very, very different. So people respond to you differently. Sometimes people don't understand why you're making different choices. Sometimes people get upset because you're making different choices because what then happens is when you're doing the work, it triggers stuff in them that they're not doing it. And that's not to shame them, but it makes them question, okay, well, this person is not gossiping with me anymore. This person won't allow me to mistreat them anymore. Because when people expect you to behave a certain way without boundaries and being disrespectful to yourself, it benefits them. Okay, it benefits them. And when you start doing this work, you draw a line under that. You can't allow yourself to be treated and to allow people to behave in certain ways around you anymore. You just can't do it, and you can't go back. That's the beauty in doing this work. You can't go back. You have to behave in a way that allows you to really stand in the power, to stand in your black feminine power. Okay, so when we're talking about mindfulness, it's about really giving yourself permission to embrace all of you, your blackness, your femininity, your humanity. All of those things have to be part of that conversation. And that's the difference between mindfulness in a general sense and mindfulness as a black person. You have to be able to have that conversation with yourself. How does racism play a role in how I'm feeling? What have I internalized as a result of what I've experienced under the system of racism? And what do I need to do about it? How do I need to take care of myself? Okay, let go of all of that zen bullshit, thinking that you have to be all, oh, no, you don't. Mindfulness for us is about self honesty. Okay, and you use the tools, you pick up the tools that you need in order to stand in that truth. Or if you don't know how to do it, or if you're numb or whatever, you get support, you get help, you ask for help, and you keep looking for it until you find it. You keep looking for it until you find it. Okay, there's one last tool that I'm going to share with you. I've just seen something on my shelf that I'm going to share with you that's really good for mindfulness. And I shared about this before. Okay, these amazing tools. Okay, they're mood cards. Okay, they're mood cards. I did do a live stream on it um a while back, maybe about, I don't know, maybe about a month or so. You know, have a look in my videos, and you'll find it. But basically, these mood cards are going to help you understand. You know, we were talking about feelings and understanding where you are and getting present and all of that. If you struggle, okay, if you struggle um to identify feelings, these mood cards are really good. Okay, if you go to my gosh, I'm trying to think now. If you get, I think I did actually put a link in the bio as well, actually, about where you can buy these from. Okay, and I'm going to be doing myself, because these are not culturally, these haven't got a cultural context. This is something else that's on my to-do list, is to create some great mood cards that have got a cultural context. But these are good in the meantime. All right, so if you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's it for today's session. So if you're interested in joining me for the book club, okay, click the link in the bio. What Mama can tell us about love. If you want to know more about trauma sensitive mindfulness, you can read this book as well, which is really good. If you want to have one-on-one session with me, if you want to talk about stuff that you don't necessarily want to do in a group or whatever, again, you click the link in the bio, and there's more information there about how you can work with me one-on-one, if you can work with me privately. Yeah, if you've got any other questions or anything that you want to ask me, you can send me a direct message, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. Oh, you're welcome, Gloria. You're welcome. Thank you for joining. Thanks everyone for joining me today. Have an amazing, amazing, amazing Wednesday, and I will see you next time. All right, take care, everyone. See you next time. Bye.